Welcome to the Empowered Mom Hour, where I talk to empowered moms who are choosing differently for their empowered births. And today we have a special guest, Kayla Tychsen. She is a conscious parenting coach and a mom of two. With her first baby, she was induced at 39 weeks. But even though it was a pretty positive experience for her and she felt she had a lot of control, she knew she didn't want to do that again. So the second time, she chose to go to 42 weeks. She felt a lot of pressure from her care provider, but she did all of the things. She was already technically in labor and she did it. And one of the things about empowered birth is not what happens in your birth, it's how you come to your birth. And our aim is, again, aiming for our true natural birth, pulling back only as much as needed and being the birth consumer. And I cannot think of a better example than what Kayla has done with her births, because she was the birth consumer before she even found Empowering Moms. So, Kayla, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Carly. So happy to be here.
Oh, it is a pleasure. It was wonderful meeting up with you back in the summertime. So, Kayla, can you tell me a little bit of your experience before you actually got induced at 39 weeks? What was the pregnancy like for you consciously? And what steps were you taking to have you basically make those decisions so that your induction was a positive experience?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. Yeah, so I was the type of person that wanted all the information, wanted to know how I could advocate for myself. And I did go into pregnancy with a very, just strong desire and belief that my body was made for this and that could I could birth a baby and that it could be a natural birth and that it would be beautiful. And so I sought out a lot of different resources when it came to natural birth and the kinds of things that doctors maybe tend to be concerned about and how to navigate through those concerns. And but also as a first time mom, as a first time pregnant woman, there were a lot of unknowns. And there also is, so much conflicting information out there. And so I think one of the things that was really helpful was having a dear friend who was a midwife and a doula. And she was really my sounding board, and she's a home birth midwife. And so I just brought so much to her, brought all my questions to her, all my, thoughts and concerns or the doctor's concerns. And so that was so helpful, right? And that community of women, having people that you can go to is just so important. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And so that was pretty shocking at the time. And also, I mean, something I knew nothing about. And so right away I was getting educated and researching and reading. And I really I wanted my birth to be a natural birth. I also wanted my pregnancy to, I didn't want to take medication. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that at different points or for different people, but in at that time, I was very much wanting to do things through diet and exercise. And so I was very disciplined in what I would eat and what I wouldn't eat, and moving my body and exercising. And so yeah, I really was able to keep my blood sugar low, and my doctor was very happy with my numbers. She was very encouraging in the things that I was doing, and she didn't push any medication because she saw that I was doing what I needed to do to have a healthy baby. My doctor, who I have a really great relationship with, and let me also just preface this: were and are living abroad. So I'm from the US, but we were living in Lebanon at the time. And so I had a great relationship with my doctor, although at that time we were still obviously getting to know each other. And my doctor was definitely very, um, she was very traditional about a lot of things and very much, and actually in the Middle East, in Lebanon, it's very common to do ultrasounds uh, on a monthly basis. And so I think in the States, there's like two, maybe, but it's very common to just be very, proactive medical wise in, tracking the baby's growth and development and all those things, which I preferred not to have all the ultrasounds, and there were some that I declined, but I definitely did more than what I probably would have done in the States. Um, but that got tricky towards the end of my pregnancy when there were many ultrasounds and they're doing measurements. And of course, the measurements aren't correct because the baby is so low and you can't get measurements that are correct. So there was concern at one point that that my baby was going to be too big. She was not too big at all when she was born. But there was, that concern, which again, kind of this mindset of everything needs to rely on technology and the medical system. Like that was a big thing that I saw was a downside to relying so much um, on ultrasounds and measurements and all these things instead of just letting my body do what it needed to do. So, so there was, a concern towards the end of the baby being bigger. There was also towards, as I was nearing 39 weeks, there was a so I got a couple higher blood pressure readings. And so my doctor was very concerned about that. But it was weird because it would be high one day and then normal the next, and then high the next day and then normal. And ultimately, like I actually do have a history of higher blood pressure readings when I'm at the doctor's office. But if I'm in a setting like a CPS, or I even, at one point wore a blood pressure monitor for an extended period of time and had normal readings. But, and maybe go into a little bit more of this, but I have realized since that I do struggle with anxiety and have dealt with that at different points. So it's probably all impacting that. But as we approached 39 weeks, there was a lot more pressure to induce. And actually, my doctor made it very clear that actually, regardless of someone having high blood pressure or gestational diabetes, in her opinion, every baby should be induced by 39 weeks. And in her understanding, after 39 weeks, risks increase. And from my research and my reading and my education, I knew that that wasn't the case. I also was really struggling though with I have these high blood pressure readings, and there can be a risk, right? High blood pressure, preeclampsia, eclampsia, which I still honestly don't understand all the ins and outs of that. But reading some of the literature is, it definitely did create some fear around. Obviously, we all want a healthy baby, and so um, I did feel really, really pressured to to induce, and kind of, this fear. Uh, my doctor using fear as a tool to have me move forward with the induction. So I, I decided to do that, and we went to the hospital. It was mid-January, and it was basically a blizzard outside. And we made our way up the hill, like barely made our way up the hill to the hospital. And I really wanted, I went into this situation knowing that I would need to be very strong about my wants and desires and what I was okay with and not okay with. And I did make my preferences really clear to my doctor. And then I was very clear with the nurses. And I would, say no, which is something that in the culture that we live in, a lot of times doctor's word is gold. Like, doctor's word is truth, and you do what the doctor says, which I'm not advocating for. Like, I mean, I think I'll share about my health right now, and I do get wisdom from doctors, but I also know that I have wisdom, and I can take in I can take in information, and I can make a decision for my own body. So, um, anyways, I went into this situation, into this birth, knowing like, okay, I am not going to be rushed into making decisions. Whenever the doctor comes with some sort of situation or suggestion, like, we're going to take our time to move forward with that. I mean, unless there is like a medical emergency situation, like, we are going to go into this with the mindset that there is time and we don't need to rush. And so I was really grateful just that my husband and I too had talked a lot about like, how he could support me in this process. And then we also had my midwife friend with us. And so we started off with a slow induction. So what they did, and I don't know what's the standard is, but what they did for me at that time was I think it was like an eighth of a cytotech, tablet. And then we waited several hours, and then like another eighth, and waited several hours. And so at the, I think it was at the 40, maybe the 40-hour mark, or maybe it's almost like the 48-hour mark, like two days. And we were just chilling, to be honest. Like, we were hanging out, we were watching shows like, I was trying to walk and do all the things. But yeah, I was in the hospital for quite a long time, and maybe, yeah. And I'm the type of person who can like remember all the feelings of something, but not necessarily the details. So I should have checked with my husband, like, the hours that everything happened, but it doesn't matter anyways. Um, we were having fun. We were enjoying it. And really, like, they, for the most part, um, gave us our space, which was really nice. And there did come a point where they were like, okay, it's been like 2 days. And they had kind of been coming to us saying, okay, it's time to start the protest. And it was just like, we're just going to wait. We're just going to wait. I'm going to walk the stairs, 50 times. Like, and we definitely took it slow and really thought through things. And then there did come a time where I was like, okay, you know, we're here. They're not letting us go home at this point, of course. Um, and so I did decide to do Pitocin. I did like request or say like I want the lowest dose possible. And I think they, honored that. I don't know. I don't know how much they gave me, but yeah, obviously things did start to happen and things were happening, but it was kind of off and on. It was like it would, I would have contractions and things would start moving and then they'd slow down and stop. And ultimately my body wasn't ready, like, and my baby wasn't ready. But I learned, I got to learn from that experience. So, started the Pitocin and it picked up pretty quick, after that. And so it was maybe a few hours and, um, and I was really grateful because they did give us space. They let us just be, it was me, my husband, and my midwife. And um and so yeah, there were moments and I think what I was most scared about going into the birth, one was being pressured and not being able to advocate for myself or not knowing how, like being presented with a situation that I wasn't sure how to move forward in. But the other part of it was like, okay, I want a natural birth, but like how much is this, like how painful really is this, and what can I take, and just all those questions that I think as a first time pregnant person you just, especially because we're fed a narrative about birth from TV shows and movies and all the things that we watch without even realizing it. And instead of being told the message repeatedly that we can do it because our bodies were created to do it. And so, anyways, I kind of held those two tensions, but it
Hmm.
was so beautiful. And, since then I've heard that, I know that Pitocin can really intensify things, but honestly, it was such a positive experience. And I trusted my body and I trusted that it could do this. Obviously, we did have an intervention, with the Pitocin, but at the same time, I was just fully present in the moment and in the whole experience. And it honestly was the most beautiful. I mean, the birth of my first child was just incredible. And so yeah, it was a really positive experience, even though looking back, I was like, I would have changed some things, but it was like I can appreciate how things went and how I felt about it, and then choose how I wanted to move forward.
Kayla, this is beautiful. You are absolutely correct. This is a very positive induction story. Seeing you tell it, I can already see how you're glowing. And I'm going to highlight something for you. Is that you had gone in with the awareness that you were not going to allow them to rush you. And that I
Yeah.
feel is really important for anyone who is choosing induction. And you did choose it. You were looking at the fact that you had this high blood pressure. You didn't know how things were going to go. You were a first time mom. You're very well educated. You're also natural minded, and you have reverence for the system for what it can be used for. You weighed the pros and cons. You recognize preeclampsia is not something you want to mess with, and you made the decision. At the same time, when you made that decision, you went with the lowest level for induction. You started out with the side attack, and it wasn't even the whole tablet, it was an eighth of a tablet. A lot of moms won't know that they can do that, that they don't have to do the whole thing all at once. And you took your time, you were fully present, you said you had a pretty great time in that hospital. The fact that they left you to do your thing is absolutely beautiful. This is empowered birth. So I just want to highlight empowering moms is not just about natural birth or bust. Yes, I myself prefer to have a completely physiological natural birth, and a lot of my clients do as well. At the same time, we do have reverence for the medical system, and Kayla, her experience of wanting a natural birth, choosing induction, and having this positive experience, I just want to highlight that for anyone watching now or in the future. And just this is empowered birth right here. This is empowered birth.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go into the second part because you said it yourself. You had things that you would do differently. You had this experience. You were present to the experience. You didn't really have to heal too much from the experience, where a lot of moms have been traumatized, disillusioned, thinking that birth doesn't go a certain way. You've highlighted also our birth culture, which is something that a lot of people don't touch on, which we are in, like we are just bombarded with these images from the time that we're born and told our bodies don't work or things can go wrong, things can go frightening. And you did your research. You went into your pregnancy, you did your research. You did a lot more than a lot of first time moms. And then you had this experience and you knew how your body works. You also knew more about the induction process. And you made the conscious decision not to do it again. So, can we highlight that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just also throw out there that at the hospital that I was at for my first birth, the nurses, none of the nurses had ever, ever seen a woman not have an epidural. And so this is just a little window into the medical system here, the culture here, and also just they were so shocked and so amazed and like just did not even know what to do with me. And so that's part of why they're just like, I guess you can do whatever you want because we've never even seen this happen. And so I think that really also paved the way for my second pregnancy and birth with my doctor because I really built that rapport. And she saw that like I was educated, I was firm in what I wanted and needed and what I was going to do and not going to do. And and so then in my second pregnancy and birth, she was much more hands off and so much more she's like, okay, like, you know, we'll see. You know what you're doing kind of thing. And so that was I was very, very grateful um, that with my second birth, it was a bit more, um, a bit more hands off, although I'll share how it went. So again, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and my girls are, I think, about 22 months apart. So it was very shortly after my daughter's first birthday, I think the next month or two, that I got pregnant. And then, um, yeah, and again, it was actually much harder in the second pregnancy, which there's probably several different reasons knowing what I know now, but it's much harder to be on top of my blood sugar. It wasn't as easy to manage. And part of that, I think, was having a toddler at home. And I was more tired, and I didn't also have the time to invest in all of the meal prep that I had done before. And so, yeah, time or energy. And so there was an aspect of it being just a little bit more challenging. Um, I do remember gaining more weight in my second pregnancy, which was fine and normal. Actually, had kind of lost weight in my first pregnancy just because I was so strict with things, just because I felt like I really needed to be. But in my second, but it was still in a healthy range. Everything was healthy. Everything was going well. Um, but again, with the late ultrasounds, um, my doctor did some measurements of her head and thought that her head was measuring small. And so I don't remember when this was, but I remember it was very late. And I remember doing research and being like, all the things say that at this point, head measurements aren't reliable. So, but she was very concerned that the head was measuring small. And so we did decide to shift from the hospital, the first hospital that I had given birth in with my first daughter. We decided to go to a different hospital, which was an hour away. And it was a really, well-known hospital. It was also known for more naturally minded births. So I thought, we're okay. Well, at least we'll have a good experience. I won't, they won't be so shocked if I don't, when I don't have an epidural and those kinds of things. But so it did cause us to shift, but I really did not want to be induced. I really wanted my baby to finish developing in her time, and I wanted to give birth when my body was ready and when she was ready. And so I, I definitely pushed a lot more with that. But she also was much more like I said, hands off and much more willing to hear me and to go with what I wanted to do. But at 42 weeks, that was her cutoff. So she said, like, if the baby doesn't come tomorrow, we're inducing in the morning. So I walked the hill by my house. I, did the castor oil in small increments throughout the day. And probably like, I remember my daughter was born on Halloween. We were at a Halloween party, fall festival type thing. I remember everyone asking me, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I was like, I think I'm having Braxton Hicks. I was definitely in labor. I was totally in labor at that point and just didn't have any idea and was just kind of going having a grand old time at the party. Um, so we went home and I could feel like oh, and I think it's at that point when we got home that I like walked 20 minutes up this like up the mountain by my house, walked back down, and I was like, yeah, I think things are picking up. But I did have this desire to do most of my labor at home. And I also knew that my first birth took like 2.5 days, 2 days. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like we have all the time in the world. Um, and so I was like, okay, let's try to go to sleep. My husband and I, we went to bed. He just passed out and was snoring. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I was like, oh wow, like that was active labor for sure. Although still, and I think because I was induced the first, it was a completely different experience. And
Mhm.
so I just wasn't quite like being able to compare where I was. And I know every birth is different anyways, but there was a point where I think it was after a couple hours where my water broke. And I was like, okay, this is probably time to go to the hospital. Remember, the hospital's an hour away. So we called the babysitter to come, and then another friend, and this was also in the middle of COVID, but called another friend that was also a midwife, but she was a hospital midwife. So our sweet friend that was there at the first birth, she was not living she had moved. And so another friend, I wanted her to come and just be there, be an advocate or support my husband if he was unsure of things, and just have a third person in the mix to talk through things. Um, so they both came, and the babysitter and the midwife friend. And so my midwife friend said that she said she had no idea that I was in active labor because I was so calm and quiet and like just so peaceful. And so she's like, I wish I would have checked you before we got in the car and I would have known, like, no, we're just going to have the baby at home. But she did not do that because I was very calm. And so we got in the car, and those roads are really bumpy. So that was an interesting car ride. I can say that that was not the most comfortable way to experience active labor. But about like 30 minutes on the road, so like we're halfway there, not even halfway, probably. I experienced the feeling that I had to poop. A lot of times you have that feeling, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna like poop all over our car. And then my brain was like, then I realized, wait, no, like she's coming, like this is the baby. And so I had my husband pull over, and my midwife friend, bless her, she comes around and she's like, oh my, so I was like, I'm pretty sure the baby's coming. And I just remember her being like, oh, yep, the baby, like that's the head, the baby is coming. And being a hospital midwife, she was like, can we please try to drive, try to like drive a little bit for a little bit longer? Like, can we please try to make it to the hospital. And I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, but we can try. We can like get it, like, let's go. We can try. So we drive for maybe 10 minutes, probably not even 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, the baby is coming right now. We need to pull over. I'm having this baby in the car on the side of the road. And honestly, I was like, both my husband and I think my husband was okay. I was very calm and I was ready for it. I was like, we're doing this in the car. I was like, actually, this is better because I'm not going to experience any pressure from any doctor or anyone at the hospital. I was like, we got this. Like, she's already here. Like, we're good to go. My husband was, I think he was just like, okay, like, let's go, like, let's do it. He was fine. My midwife friend was, she was doing her best. She was doing her very best, and she did great. She did great. She caught the baby right there on the side of the road. And honestly, we were all just like cracking up at what a crazy situation we were in. And yeah, I mean, I think it was right before midnight. So thankfully, like it was dark. There weren't people on the road, and I wasn't concerned about that. But my doctor, so my husband gets a call from her right as I'm like pushing this baby out. He misses her call. He calls her back once I have my baby. And the first thing she says when she answers, when she answers, she says, "Did she have the baby in the car?" Like she just knew. She knew that I had that baby in the car. And my husband's like, "Yes, she did." Yes, she did. And so then we were like, well, might as well just deliver the placenta now and do that part, and then we can get on the road and head to the hospital. And so my doctor was, she, I think she was probably freaking out a little bit, but she definitely heard us and that we were like totally happy, doing well, everyone was good. And so apparently she told the hospital staff, she's like, we have a woman coming. She just delivered a baby in a car, but like like they would think that I would be arriving freaking out. And so she specifically told them like she's happy with it. She's okay. Like, and so I just thought that was funny. She told me later that she prepped them that like I had a baby in a car, but I was happy about it. Um, so yeah, I delivered the placenta there. We, yeah, and then we're like, okay, let's go. We'll continue to the hospital. We found like a plastic grocery bag in the back, put the placenta in there. My midwife friend actually had a cord clamp and scissors. And I was like, nope, delayed cord clamping. We'll just do it at the hospital. Like, no need to do that now. So I had a bag with the placenta and my baby wrapped in just a swaddle. I'm like, have half of my clothes on. There's blood everywhere. Like we had to get that car cleaned so many times before the water didn't run red. Um, and I was just happy as can be and nursed on our way to the hospital. And we got to the hospital and they like tried to like pick me up out of the car. Well, first they tried to take my baby from me. And just like with my first, I was like, nope, I'm keeping my baby. Like I got her. And then they tried to pick me up. I was like, I can walk to the gurney. It's literally like 5 feet away. Just like, we don't know what to do with you. And so I walked to the gurney and then they wheeled us in, did all the checks, did all the health checks. So one thing though that was interesting and that I had done a lot of reading about before. So when you have gestational diabetes, they will check the baby's blood sugar after birth. And oftentimes, from my understanding, if the baby has low blood sugar, they'll give the baby a bottle of sugar water. And I did not want that if it could be avoided. I want my baby to be healthy. I did not, of course, like if we're talking like sugar water or seizures, like give her the sugar water. But at the same time, I also read that breast milk can help that. Breast milk can be that sugar to bring the glucose back up. So, because I also did know, like, I was like, I mean, I was doing my best to keep my blood sugars as low as I could, but there it was a lot harder. So I'm just so glad that I had read this beforehand because she did test lower, and I don't know the numbers. So I don't know if it was just on the lower end. I don't know. I don't know anything, but I did ask um if I could nurse, if she would give me, if the doctor would give me 30 minutes to nurse, and if they did not come up after 30 minutes, I was like, yes, like, I mean, I want her healthy, I want her well, but if I could help that with breast milk, I wanted to do that. So
Kayla, the way you advocate is just so admirable. Like I'm like mind blown. Like you just on it.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I did nurse and sure enough, her blood sugar came up. So I was so grateful for that. And I think just an interesting note on that in particular, I was still nursing my first daughter. So I had nursed my first daughter through the second pregnancy. And then, and so I also did still have a supply. So who knows what the outcome would have been if I was just, if I was going from not having milk to nursing her, for the first time. Um, So yeah, it was just, I think it was such a gift that I had continued nursing my first daughter through that pregnancy so that I did have supply in those first moments. And also I do know that like even the first milk, even if it's from not, going from having no supply, not nursing, your baby's born and nursing, like eat
The
those, that first
colostrum.
milk. So yeah, the colostrum is so nutritious and all those things. So very good chance that that also would have been fine. But I just thought it was really interesting that like a gift. It was just a gift that like I knew I had a ton of milk. That wasn't a question in my mind. So but yeah, so it was, everyone was again very shocked, had not experienced someone that was happy to give birth in the car. They had probably experienced things like that, but not someone that was, that was happy about it. Um, and it really was so beautiful. It was so just, and the high after birth is just unmatched. Like both of my births, and I'm sure yours too. Like just that euphoric feeling after going through the whole process of birth is just
Mhm.
it's just so beautiful. And Yeah, so those are my stories, both very different births and both healthy, beautiful babies.
with just gestational diabetes on top of that, and these beautiful
Yeah.
birth stories, a positive induction where you advocated for yourself the whole time, that you still had that high after, and then a car birth to top it off at 42 weeks. I mean, come on. That is like that is a powerful story in itself. And I love it. It's like I had a car birth and I'm happy about it. And I think that
Yeah.
that's probably the best takeaway for a lot of people because we're told, well, one of the things that I tell my clients too, it's like if you want to have a hospital birth, but you want to also avoid the pressure and you are not able to advocate in the strong way, it's like, I don't want to be in the hospital the whole time, then go in at the last minute. But then there's the chance of the car birth. Well, the car birth turns out to be like the best story ever. And the only thing I would suggest is
Yeah.
maybe plastic tarp, because you said it took forever to get the the blood.
Yeah.
So I mean, just put plastic
Yeah.
on the car, and then like if you have a car birth, then that's the one thing you don't have to worry about now. So Kayla, you are so educated, and you're also a conscious parenting coach. You understand the neurology of the brain and everything, and you actually do have a gift for moms to get if they are interested in learning more about that for parenting. At the same time, this same report that you have put together, which is absolutely fascinating, I've read through it. How does that translate to being able to think consciously about what you want in your birth and stay out of that fear? Because you really stayed out of that fear and those triggers that come up in parenting all the time. But you did the same thing with your pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's so one thing that I've talked about a couple of different times that's so important is our mindset and what we choose to think about, what we choose to watch. Like during my pregnancies, I was very, very intentional about the things that I read, the things that I watched. Um, and said no to things that could you know plant seeds of doubt or fear. And so yeah, even being intentional about the kinds of resources that I went to, I think was just so important, and filling my mind with positive stories of birth. And also what I really liked about reading positive birth stories is they gave me so many ideas of things to do in my birth. And there were a few different things that I specifically like recalled, or that I read when I was reading these birth stories, that I just made a mental note of, like, okay, that's important. Like, out of all the stories, like this one in particular about squatting and having something to hold on to, I was just like, I just feel like I'm gonna need to know that. And sure enough, I did with my first. I used that, and that was really what brought her like through the cervix, and then was ready to come out and start pushing. Um, and yeah, there were a couple of different, like, and just reading about breath and then practicing breath. Um, that was so key, not just reading about it. And this is again part of we're talking about neuroscience. Like, we also don't want to just read about things. It is helpful to fill our minds with the right kind of information, the right kind of stories, but we also want to practice those things in real life, because the more that we actually have our bodies do those things, and actually that squatting was one thing that I did very regularly during the pregnancy too, not necessarily pulling on something, but practicing squatting, spending significant time in a squatted position, and then practicing the deep belly breathing, practicing muscle relaxation. And so really it does take, right? Like our people talk about muscle memory, and there's also pathways in our brain. And the more time we spend practicing these kinds of things, the easier it will be to access them in the moment of birth. Especially because during birth, if we've practiced those pathways, they're going to be right there. They're going to be easy to access. They're going to be right there. We're not going to have to think through, okay, step one, two, three. But if we've practiced them, that's already something that our body is going to automatically do. So I think that is a key thing. I think, one of the reasons that I really wanted a natural birth is because I knew that all of these chemicals released in our brains and bodies are so important, and they can be hindered when we start introducing interventions, when we, have an epidural. I totally get why people would choose that, when they maybe don't know how beautiful it really can be. And that, and another thing, so, okay, I'll finish that. So these chemicals that are released during the birth process, and then in the hours after birth, are so important for starting off this relationship with our baby in a way that builds this attachment, that builds this connection. So there's that, and then there's also, when we're talking about the things we're filling our mind with, fear really does increase pain. And so when we're dwelling on fear, when we're filling our minds with things that bring about fear, that is what is going to cause more pain, more tension in our bodies. The more tense our bodies are, then the more painful it is. Whereas if we can relax our bodies, if we can release fear, then there's actually gonna be less pain. And so, so it's so interesting being able to, see it from this neuroscience perspective, from a nervous system perspective. But it really does benefit both us as the mom and as the new mom entering motherhood, maybe for the first time, maybe, for the second or third time, but it really benefits us to actually go through that whole natural process.
Yeah, I always look at it as like, if you've never experienced the oxytocin high and you don't know anybody around you who has experienced that glow, I mean, you can see it the way that you were talking about your births, and it's like that high afterwards. It's like, I can tell you have had that high. And then there's
Yep.
other mothers that were told birth is painful, birth is traumatic. They don't have that access to that memory of that high. And if you've
Yeah.
never experienced something and nobody else is reinforcing that side of birth, what it can be, then of course you're going to stay in fear. And the whole fear, tension, pain cycle, that was my gateway because I had been traumatized from my upbringing. I was like, just give me a C-section and a tummy tuck, to, oh, I'm pregnant. I don't actually want major surgery. I guess I'm having a natural birth. Oh, wait, it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be traumatic. Wait, there's this fear, tension, pain cycle. There's orgasmic birth. What is this? There's a whole other side. And I
Yep.
mean, car birth. You also
Yep.
didn't know you were in active labor.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
that's the beauty of it. You were at a Halloween party.
I was at a Halloween party playing games and chatting with the other moms in labor. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
And that's like
amazing.
my home birth was the same way. I was in labor and my neighbor was across the street and she's like, "Oh, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing good. I'm happy as a clam. I'm outside in the sunlight and like I'm in labor." And they
Yeah.
have no idea. And then the next day, they're like, "I saw the ambulance in your driveway. Are you okay?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, they just called that as backup. But no, I'm fine. I had the baby at home." And they're like, "You had the baby at home? You were so brave." It's like, "No, brave would be going back to the hospital."
Yep.
Like, no, I had the baby at home. It was beautiful. It was this beautiful experience. And like yours is wild with this car birth. And everybody is like expecting you to be traumatized, and you're just like, good.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone was expecting me to be traumatized. That is a great
Yeah.
way to put it. And they had to like prep people like she's she's okay. Like she's
Mhm.
happy. She's not traumatized. And it was I
Yeah.
still can't believe it. And I still just, I look but I think about both my births. I'm just like, wow, like just how incredible. They were
Their
just
births
so
have been
beautiful.
amazing. They have been absolutely amazing. And I feel that your understanding of neuroscience allowed you to consciously choose that too, because you recognize the importance of those hormones. And this is why I say in one of my pillars is the right education is important. We need to know that those hormones that get blocked during unnecessary interventions, I'm not talking about necessary interventions, I'm talking about when it's unnecessary, when it's done as routine, when it's, well, this is just what we do. Like you were in a area that was very much the doctor tells you what to do and you follow it. And then, Kayla, you come in as this mom who is self assured, educated, and you advocated in such a way that you changed the birth culture over there. Maybe at a smaller scale, but you changed something. Those doctors, those nurses, everyone who witnessed your births, they witnessed something that had never been done before, twice.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, just to kind of reaffirm that, so one of the things that my doctor was like really struggling with my first birth was that I was like, I don't want to give birth on my back. I don't want to give birth on my back. And so she's kind of like, I am not comfortable with that. I've never done anything else. And I was like, there are other positions. We're going to practice them. And the doctor was like, okay, well, I guess have your husband know what he's doing and help you. She's like, I don't know what to do. And so I did have my midwife friend there, and we had talked about and practiced side lying. And so, but when it came time to it in that first birth, when it came time to push, when the doctor finally came in, because she left us alone for a really long time, which was great. And then when my midwife friend was like, she's coming, it's time to push, like a nurse just happened to like kind of peek in and then ran and got the doctor. The doctor came in and she tried to make me go on my back. And I was like, I am not moving. Like, this is where I'm comfortable and I'm staying right here. And it was beautiful. It worked out. The baby came out. Like it was fine. But um fast forward to now, several years later, I got to doula for a friend of mine giving birth with the same doctor. And I got to advocate for her with this doctor that and it was again in the moment. So my friend had told her, I don't want to give birth on my back. Doctor said, I'm not okay, not really comfortable with that. But then but she had kind of agreed. But then in the moment, the nurses start putting the stirrups on. And I was like, hold on. Like, to my friend, are you wanting to be in stirrups? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, can we try another position to the doctor? The doctor's like, I have not done I've not you're the only person that I've ever let give birth in another position. So the doctor was like, if you can do it, then we'll try it. And so we did the side lying position again. She was not for the all fours. It was like, we could try all fours. We could do, no. She's like, nope, we'll just go with the side lying one. That's the one you did. That's the one the only other position I've seen. So anyways, she gave birth, side lying as well, but not on her back. And so I just felt like I am I've showed her another way. It's worked twice, and there's another way of doing it, and it works, and the babies come out, and they're healthy, and the mom's okay, and it's all okay. So, anyways, yeah, it's
Well, that speaks to the ripple effect that happens when you have an empowered birth. You're an empowered mom for life. No one can take the power away from you again. And those of us who have those beautiful ecstatic experiences, we tend to go into some form of birth work. It's just something that happens. We get that bug. Either we start advocating or we're educating or we happen to doula for a friend, as you've done. And we just recognize that we can show someone a better way. And you've done that. You've shown that. And we need more of that. So part of the empowered birth movement is really get moms into that space of experiencing those ecstatic births so that we can teach the care providers who are afraid. I mean, your doctor wasn't bad and wrong. She said it. I've never done it this way. I don't know how. And that fear comes up. That's one of the categories of fear and resistance that I talk about. It's like, I've just never done it this way. I don't know how. And that keeps them stuck. But how do you grow and learn if you don't try something new? I mean, that's like with our kids. I've never done that, mommy. I know you've never done that, but you're going to learn how to zip up your own jacket. No, you've always done it for me, mommy. No, we're going to coach you to do it yourself. Otherwise, somebody's going to be zipping up your jacket for the rest of your life, and we're not doing that. Right? We're raising kids to be adults, not forever babies. So, understanding when we're pregnant and we're going into the medical system, the system itself was built on this idea of infantilizing women. I mean, that was the whole thing. And there's fear and there's control embedded into it. That may not be what somebody is seeing consciously, and it's there. And it's that rewiring that happens that if they see something enough times, they may start being open to change. And it may take a while. I mean, you just happen to be the doula of the client who was going with your previous doctor. So you were able to show, well, I already did this. It's like, yeah, but you were the only one. It's like, yes. And now you're going to have two. So now it's not, I've only delivered one. It's, I've now helped two. I've assisted two. And Who knows? Maybe the next one wants to be on their hands and knees and they're inspired by you and they go to that same doctor and they're like, I'm going to go on hands and knees. It's like, I've never done hands and knees. I did side lying. It's like, well, I'm going to do hands and knees and I'm going to show you. It's like, oh, you've got Kayla energy.
Yeah.
It's that ripple effect.
Yeah.
So, Kayla, this has been absolutely fantastic. And I briefly touched on this report that you have. So, I'm going to let you talk about the report now and what you do as a conscious parenting coach and your website and how they can learn more about you professionally.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, yes, I'm a conscious parent coach. I I've done training under Dr. Dan Siegel. I've also done training in the nervous system science, polyvagal theory, and I am so passionate about walking alongside parents and supporting parents from pregnancy throughout their child's life and throughout parenthood. I actually just finished a cohort with a grandmother, and actually she's not my first grandmother that I've coached. And so, it doesn't stop even when kids are grown, and then there's a new generation. And so there's always obviously things to learn and ways to grow. And so I really particularly love looking at parenting and this child parent relationship through the lens of the nervous system, because there's so much that impacts our bodies that we're often not aware of at all. And so much is impacting our child that we're not aware of at all. And it manifests in frustrating behaviors. But when we can actually dig beneath the surface to the underlying needs and underlying causes, what is happening in their nervous system, how can we alleviate stress? That's then when we actually see the behaviors resolve themselves. And so I love walking alongside parents to really explore their values and help them find solutions that fit them and their family. So I'm not a parent coach that sits and says, well, here's exactly what you have to do and say. And because you're not me, you don't have my kids. So what I do with my kids might actually be completely different in a lot of areas than what another parent is going to choose. But ultimately, if we're looking at attachment science, if we're looking at the nervous system, then we can come up with solutions that fit your family, that fit who you are, that fit your child and their unique strengths and their development and all these things. So that's what I love to do. I have a freebie. It is a guide for parents on the nervous system. So it is a few pages, and it gives some good detail and some practical application of how this plays out in this parent-child's dynamic. So I think you'll probably put the link to that in the description so
We'll
that
put it
parents.
in the description. And can you also say it on the screen? Because some people can't find things in the description.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you can find me. So my Instagram is Your Conscious Parent Coach. And then my website is www.yourconsciousparentcoach.com. And I actually have a lot of freebies. If you go under resources, there's a resource tab, but you can find this nervous system freebie. And I'd also love to walk alongside you. So I have an online course. I also do one-on-one coaching a couple times a year. I'll do cohorts. I just finished up a cohort, and that's a really neat way to go through coaching with other parents and build that community. But also, if you want one-on-one, I'm here for that too. So I'd love to support you.
Thank you so much, Kayla. And I just love how when you were speaking on how it's like, I'm not the expert and everything, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, that is the essence of empowered motherhood, which is also the empowering moms is all about one size does not fit all. Moms are all different. We are all people. We are all unique. We all have different traumas, different values, different ways of approaching things, different kids.
Yep.
And when there's these blanket things, it's like you have to do it this way. This is the right way to do it. And if you're not doing it that way, you're bad and wrong, and you're doing it wrong. And why can't you fit your kid into this box? Why can't you fit into that box? I mean, that is where a lot of our struggles as moms come from, is when we're told by an expert, by somebody who's got a lot of knowledge, that our way is wrong. And I love that you don't do that. I love that you are walking alongside moms. And that's empowering moms is I'm walking alongside you as a collaborator. I'm walking alongside you as a friend, as somebody who's creating this ripple effect. And you empowered mom watching, I'm walking alongside you too. So I just want to remind you again, go check out yourconsciousparentcoach.com. Check out all of Kayla's freebies. She's got a lot of them, similar to Empowering Moms. And if you have any questions or it's like, wait, I can't find Kayla. Sometimes things change. Sometimes as time goes on, websites change. I am in connection with Kayla. So you just reach out hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. We will get you into connection with her. Okay. So whether social media changes as it does, whether websites change as they do, whether something goes awry in cyber world, Kayla and I are here. We're in connection and we are here for you. Okay. So I just wanted to let you know about that. Again, if you want to follow Kayla, go and check her out on all her social media. If you are loving this video and you found a lot of value, please like, share, subscribe, pay it forward, pass this on to other moms. A drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples create waves. Enough waves can change the tide, as Kayla has embodied in her birth experiences and shown the medical system another way. And this has just been absolutely wonderful, Kayla. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carly. So grateful to be here, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. So this has been the Empowered Mom Hour. So remember, empowered birth isn't just about what happens in your birth, it's how you come to it. And when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take your power away from you again. So whether you're birthing a baby, birthing a creative project or a business or a movement or a new version of yourself, let Empowering Moms be your guide. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Namaste.